The year is 1968, and what was the British Motor Corporation has now become the British Leyland Motor Corporation, a collection of the country's main car manufacturers under one title. Within this were three highly respected sports car models, each with a larger and smaller roadster on offer. There was Austin Healey with their Big 3000 and small Sprite, MG with the midget and highly successful B, and Triumph with the Spitfire and newly introduced TR6. However, by 1967 the Austin Healey 3000's design was ageing, and the upcoming safety regulations in North America meant that there was no future in its diminishing appeal. The brutish sports car baton was therefore passed on to the MGC to act as a 3-litre successor. It's a real shame then that the MGC was a tragic missed opportunity, with only 9,000 sold in the car's 2-year lifespan. This was mainly due to damning reviews from the press who said the car was very cumbersome and lacking in torque, whilst having too similar a design to the quintessential B. So the Big Healey was dead, and as of 1971 so was the Sprite, discontinued by BL because of the fact it was identical to the MG Midget, apart from badging. Can you tell the difference? Austin Healey may have been a thing of the past, but both Triumph and MG were still left with ageing lineups. The EX234 concept, designed by Pininfarina and instigated by MG in early 1964 to improve the B's suspension system, had been dismissed by Leyland and was now consigned to history. And so instead, the corporation gave MG and Triumph's design teams the task of creating modernised replacements for their flagship models, a project that would result in destruction, confusion, and a neglected wonder. In mid-1969, Abingdon began work on what would eventually result in the MG ADO21 concept, a mid-engine sports car with a layout similar to Italian motors of the era. It was to incorporate Leyland's new E-Series engine and transmission package, whilst the suspension system would be a complex and innovative hydroelastic layout, as seen on the ADO16 range and ill-fated EX234, which we saw earlier. In fact, the rear suspension arrangement was particularly special, being a sophisticated semi-independent system well suited to mid and rear-engined cars. Triumph, meanwhile, proposed the targa-topped Bullet and the fastback Lynx, much more conventional designs being front-engined and incorporating existing saloon car running gear. MG, meanwhile, were having issues. The team faced packaging problems due to the tall E-Series engine, and the original brief was soon lost. Unlike Triumph, who were playing it safe, MG became increasingly ambitious. The ADO21 was initially intended to be a replacement for the MG Midget, but with the proposition of a 1500cc model housing the potential to expand to a 2227cc engine, the concept was soon switched to target the MGB sector. The transmission was also a problem, in particular the gear change linkage, also used in the Austin Maxi, a car with a famously poor gearbox. It used a 3-cable arrangement that resulted in dodgy gear changes, the same system the ADO21 would have to use, although even longer cables were needed because of its mid-engine layout. It's safe to say then the gearing wouldn't have been as sporty as its looks. Show any car person this concept, and MG certainly won't be the brand that springs to mind. So work continued on, and by late 1970 the full-size ADO21 model had been built, as pictured. The question was now surrounding its future. On the 3rd of November 1970, a full-sized clay model of the Paul Hughes and Harris Mann-styled ADO21 was viewed by British Leyland's management, but it seemed the idea was already dying at this point. A man called Spen King had visited the USA to assess the North American sports car market, concluding that Americans did not want sophisticated mid-engine sports cars, but instead simple and affordable vehicles. Sadly, it may well be the case that King was biased in his research, as he worked for Triumph and would have therefore supported Project Bullet over the ADO21. Overall, his findings would influence the final result. The management meeting only took a matter of minutes. The front end was unanimously admired, but there were some reservations about the rear end, causing the program to, well, just stop. Except nobody ever really got told it was canned, meaning the main prototype sat abandoned in the corner of a development shop until 12 months later the suggestion came that it should be chopped up. And just like that, the rare concept was destroyed. In conclusion, the MG ADO21 could have been something really special, reinventing the British sports car and reigniting the sector's dying light. But sadly, due to the desire of pleasing the American market and early British Leyland's lack of resources, the project was never thoroughly executed, and a proposition packed with potential was very quickly neglected. Some might argue that the Triumph Bullet was the better car all along, and it's easy to see why BL went with a simpler concept. But had they been a little bit more ambitious, then we might have had a mid-engine MG as early as the 1970s. It took another 25 years for the final result, the MGF, which shows that we should really thank the ADO21 for being the genesis of the idea. As for the Bullet, well, that went on to evolve into the Triumph TR7.
TR7 is here, and sports cars will never be the same again.
Says it all really. Sports cars were never the same again, in a bad way. Goodbye.